Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who's going to help us cut the cotton. In other words, we're going to get rid of the fluff. Lee Colan was born in Franklin Square, New York, a suburban community on Long Island. When he was 7, his family, like many families at the time, migrated to the suburban or southern tip of Long Island, known as Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There he developed a love for sports, particularly football and basketball. Later, he would come to more fully appreciate the discipline and lessons gleaned from participating in team sports. Lee was blessed with a stable, unconditionally loving family. He was the youngest of 3 children with a sister 3 years older and a brother 15 years older. So Lee was clearly a late-in-life surprise for his parents. Lee's parents were part of the greatest generation, so hard work, education, and caring for others were core values. His mother was a bookkeeper and his father was a commercial artist, so Lee inherited equal parts of analytical and creative skills. He also had 5 educators in his extended family, which infused Lee with a desire to learn and educate and train, even if not in a traditional school classroom. Lee held various corporate leadership roles with American Airlines, Sandoz, which also is known as Novartis, and Fox Meyer, which is now McKesson, and he was a consultant with 2 premier firms, Booz Allen Hamilton and Mercer, earlier in his career. His latest corporate post was as a vice president for Physician Reliance Network, one of the fastest growing NASDAQ companies at the time. He co-founded the L Group and management consulting firm, a management consulting firm focused on leadership in 1999. His business partner for the past 20 years and co-author of his last 6 books is also his wife of 32 years. In addition to serving his clients, writing and speaking, Lee also serves on the board of directors for Pacific Seafood Group, the largest fully integrated seafood company in North America. He is a former director for Aztec Systems, who was ultimately sold to a private equity firm. He also served on the advisory board for Asset Intertech. Lee views his business as his ministry, so he regularly gives his time to numerous individuals who are in life or career transition, and also to agencies who need a clear focus or just a pair of hands. Some of those agencies include the United Way, North Texas Food Bank, and Gracebridge. Lee lives in the Dallas area with his wife, Julie. They have 3 children. One works in advertising like his grandfather and lives in New York, and 2 of them currently attend Wake Forest University, which is also the alma mater of my wife, and 45 minutes from where I live. And their 3 kids have co-authored a book titled, Please Listen Up, Parents, 12 Secrets Your Kids Want You to Know. Lee Colan, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Always ready, Jim. You got it.
I'm glad you're here. Now, I've given my Legion a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Yeah, we just like to encourage and equip leaders at every level. You know, it's really about simple tools. We believe the most complex challenges leaders have can be boiled down to simple truths that are both timely and timeless. I'm a pretty feeble-minded, simple-minded guy, so I just like to look at challenges our clients are having and figure out simple ways to kind of help them get over the hump. And so whether it's just a tool that we'll be talking about later or just an idea or a concept, we love equipping them with those tools, but then also encouraging them along the way. And that goes for our business, but also our personal life. That's kind of my mission in life, just to kind of lift people up.
Well, you know, I really appreciate your recent volume. And I mean, you've written several books, and I haven't had the opportunity because I've just been introduced to you, which I'm so excited about, of the others. But we're talking about the power of positive coaching. And for me, as I was going through your book, I mean, there were so many things that just hit me so hard. And you and I had some off-mic conversations about some other tools that people have been exposed to that are quite popular in regards to coaching that are just so confusing. We're not going to name those because we don't want to point people to those. Okay, so something better. I love the way you guys laid out, the different aspects associated with positive coaching. And I'm just going to go ahead and read those. We're going to talk about those a little bit. So we talked about that inspiring coaches explain expectations, inspiring coaches ask questions, inspiring coaches involve team members, inspiring coaches measure results, and inspiring coaches appreciate people. Now, before we get into that, you and I had also talked about the differences and what coaching really is, because a lot of times people go through a particular experience and they get an idea of what coaching is, and from what I've experienced, most of the time it's wrong. So what is coaching versus other things?
Well, I would say at its core, because we could probably have a debate about what different definitions of, at its core, it's bringing out in someone what they didn't see themselves. So helping them perform at levels that they didn't think they could perform at in a sustainable way, not cracking a whip. So it's bringing awareness to that person. It's bringing encouragement and tools to that person. It's drawing out in them knowledge and insights maybe they didn't think they had. So really, we wrote this book to help leaders elevate their coaching game, because the truth is, business leaders are just finding out what athletes have known for years, that a coach helps elevate your performance. Duh, right? So in the business world, we've gone to this paradigm shift of, coaching used to be a scarlet A 25 years ago. Oh, at least got a coach, it was remedial. To now it's a badge of honor, because people are like, wait, heck, how come I don't have a coach? Well, the reality is very few organizations can afford to resource every manager with a coach. So we just wrote this book to equip leaders with a tool set so they can elevate their coaching game and build the coaching culture inside the organization, and do it in their way. We give them basic fundamentals and tools, but I think it's really about how you authentically express that. I try not to get caught up in saying, well, a coach is this, so you have to do this, or a coach should or shouldn't do that. If you're helping the people get the best out of themselves, you're probably a pretty darn good coach.
Well, in addition to that, I'd like to add one of the things as far as really getting connection and understanding in what we're talking about here is you explained, for example, what an Olympic coach goes through. So, and think about an Olympian,
right?
Is that they're essentially practicing 99% of the time for 1% of performance.
That's right. Yeah.
And if we look at all that goes into that and that effort for them to be able to master their sport, and you think about the working world, we flipped that paradigm.
That's right.
And that's created a significant problem when you start looking at the skills that are required in the workforce. What is being trained in our traditional education systems. And so companies are kind of stuck in this, really, it's a huge hole of what I need people to do for us to be successful in the modern workplace, versus, everything that we've done traditionally. And I think coaching is really the thing that will bridge and close that gap. So more and more organizations, do need coaching. They do need more coaches. They do need, this, and I think you provide the different systems. So I think that's what rolls into us talking about the positive coaching habits. So walk us through those a little bit.
Yeah, and again, it's the positive coaching habits. So we try to use the research over the past decade that's been evolving in the area of positive psychology. And again, my background's in industrial organizational psychology. So we try to understand if you're a leader, if you're a good psychologist, if you understand people, understand the human dynamic, understand how their bodies work, our chemistry works. When I feel appreciated, what happens to my body? I mean, we're creatures of pleasure. So I get these endorphins going, and that feels good. I want to do more of that. So if you just understand some basic dynamics about how people work, the truth is leading people hasn't really changed much in 100 years. Now I say that and people are going to get all up in arms because they're like, no, globalization, mixed generations in the workforce and more technology. That's all the swirling whirlwinds. We try to take people to the core of the storm where it's stable. So the fundamentals, if you understand people, all right, and you understand how they work, and you honestly, to be a great coach, if you really love people, because you have to invest in people, you could be a great coach. And so we try to take those dynamics, we boil them down to these five simple steps that you rattled off: explain, ask, involve, measure, and appreciate. And if you do those as a habit every day, right, you get the outcome. So if you explain expectations, you get alignment. If you ask questions, you get engagement. If you involve your team, you get ownership. So what we see happening is people get busy going, I can't squeeze this in. I don't have time to explain. I don't want to ask questions because I know the answers, or I'll appreciate them later. We call that salt and pepper coaching. We do a little bit here, a little bit there. Well, it's a choice. You can choose these 5 habits I just rattled off. If you choose those, you get the outcome. And the outcomes are alignment, right? Engagement, commitment, accountability, right? Those kind of things, ownership. But if you choose not to, because I'm too busy, or it's just not, I don't see that as part of my job, well, then you're going to get the opposite. You're going to get misalignment. You're going to get disengagement. You're going to get blaming. And we believe that being a coach is a central role of a leader. So if you're really serious about it, you need to take these 5 habits seriously. And if you own them, you're going to get these things on the other side of the equation, those positive outputs, which most leaders, I would imagine all leaders want that. So it's really a choice. We talk about just a choice. If you want these positive outputs, these are the inputs you have to have as a leader.
Well, and part of those positive outputs, and you talk about, there's a book called The Art of the Start, right? So even
Right.
we can talk about the art of the start, in your coaching journey and the process, is that, you and I we shared off mic, and for me, I'm a huge believer of mindset, and you talk about previous interviews that resonates with people, and Dr. Carol Dweck's work on mindset.
Sure.
It's vitally important to this component. So if you can, just kind of hit on that for a brief moment, but I really want to dig a little bit deeper into the whole expectations piece, because what I see is that there are so many holes and so many opportunities that we can actually leverage if we just do a better job of expectation setting. So tell us a little bit about
Agreed. I'll just do a 30-second rewind on mindset, then we'll jump into expectations. So our formula that outlines this whole book is that a positive coaching mindset times positive coaching habits results in winning results in relationship. It's that 2-sided wake that every leader leaves of results and relationships. You can't have all results and not relationships. You can't have the reverse either. So, but it starts with your mindset. And like any interaction, if I go in going, oh, this thing with Jim, he's a real pain, I'm going to get out of that relationship what that mindset's going to dictate, right? So we have to have a positive coaching mindset, and it's based on 4 levels of awareness we have to have. We have to know our thoughts, our purpose, our values, and our emotions. So if we have a deep understanding of those, we can bring the best version of ourselves to serve our person that we're coaching in the best way into that interaction. If our mindset's all negative and messed up and unclear, we're not going to really be able to employ the coaching habits in the best possible way with the best impact. So it's really clear up front to have that mindset. But as you jump into the habits, and the first one is explain, and the last one is appreciate. We always talk about the bookends of success are initiative and closure, right? Can you initiate things and you can bring in the closure? Well, I believe the bookends of coaching success are the same, the first and the last ones, explaining and appreciating. Not that the others are unimportant, but we talked about this off mic, 80% of our coaching issues when we work with a client is because they didn't align on expectations and clarify the expectations up front. And you pay for that later. It's the ultimate pay me now or pay me later leadership proposition, defining the expectations up front. People say, I don't have time, we're too busy, right? He should know what to do. I'm like, I'm telling you, I don't care if you have high paid MBAs, you need to be clear up front. That's not micromanaging, it's just aligning on expectations up front. Take 5 minutes to do it now, you save hours later. Cheat on it now, you have to invest hours later.
Well, I think that so initially you had said, you said pay me now or pay me later. And then you said it a little bit differently because you're talking about the magnitude of the pay me later. Right.
It's
a multiplicative issue here.
Yes.
That, it's that, okay, I could spend the $1 now.
That's it.
I'm going to spend 10,000 later. It is that huge of a difference often.
Absolutely. We call it, from molehills to mountains. You don't address an issue now or don't clarify expectations now, and it would take a few minutes to do it, and you wait till later. Now we've got an issue. Now it's going to take me a day. And we wait till later. Now now weeks in conversations with HR, and it's a pain in the neck, right? So we need to proactively address stuff when it's a molehill. And it's easy to kind of sweep things under the rug. Stephen Covey has a great quote in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from years ago that says, unaddressed emotions don't go away. They just rear their heads in uglier ways. And our corollary to that is that unaddressed performance issues don't go away. They just rear their heads in uglier ways. So if you just kind of bury your head in the sand, just everyone do a little visual on this, put your head in the sand, all right, what's sticking up? It's not a very attractive view for anybody, right? And so we have to be able to be bold enough. And as a leader, we have to know that it's our own discomfort needs to be subordinated to what's in the best interest of my team. Because if someone's not performing and I'm not addressing it, their colleagues are going to get frustrated with that employee at first. But after a while, they're going to say, well, it's going to shift to the leader and go, you know what? He or she's allowing that. And usually it's not till leaders realize their own credibility is at risk, then they say, oh, I better jump on that. And we always say, you never want to put your own credibility at risk, because that's the main thing that you have as a leader and a coach. And if you don't have your own credibility and integrity that you do what you say you're going to do, if you don't have integrity, no one's following you. And guess what? If no one's following you, you're not really leading. So we just really think that that inspiring coaches, they subordinate their own discomfort. No one loves to have tough conversations with people, but they understand that for the benefit of the team and for that person, I'm serving them best to have that conversation. I'm not really serving them, even though it feels better now, maybe to avoid it. I'm not really serving them or the team to do that.
You know, and for me, I often get the opportunity to come down to reality through coaching middle school baseball.
Ah, great.
And I had a great one of these examples to be able to share yesterday. So I was actually going through a pitching instruction session with one of my kids, and so I had the opportunity to ask him. I said, do you like playing? He goes, oh, I love it. I said, okay, so what are some of your goals, right? Yeah. And he says, well, I would like to be able to, become a college baseball player and then maybe someday make it into the pros. And so for me, I didn't want to tell him that, 0.001% of all high school players, if you play high school, actually get a chance to even make it to the major league. So let's not go there, right?
Right.
And so I want to talk to him about the things that he needs to be able to do in order to put himself in a position for success.
Great.
And so I said, okay, great. So how much work are you doing outside of practice?
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, so one of the important components, of being able to be an elite athlete is nutrition. I said, so how do you actually make six-pack abs? And he goes, doing a lot of sit-ups. And I said, no, you have to do that. I said, but six-pack abs are made in the kitchen.
That's right.
What you're putting in is fuel.
That's right.
And so this kid is overweight and it affects his speed. So I said, okay, so what are you doing from a nutrition perspective to be that elite athlete that can make it into high school and then even has a high school ball play and even has a chance to make it into college play and then maybe someday set them up for success as a pro? And he stopped. And he goes, chips. And I said, okay, man.
Yeah, that's all
right.
But
it does come down from a coaching perspective of setting expectations is also them coming into realization that they have to do things and put in. It's I can't do that for you as a coach.
Yeah, right. Listen, we boil it down to very simple-minded, like 3 W's: what, who, and when. So whether you're leaving someone in a quick conversation in the hallway or actually having a specific coaching conversation with them, it's what are you going to do by when? And then what am I going to do by when? So what, who, and when. So very simple, just to kind of align on expectations. And we try to do that with every meeting with our clients. We always have a kind of a 3W form we come away with. But I carry it around as a mental template, even as I'm talking to someone, because it's amazing. When you're interacting with someone, just you and I'm bringing all my expectations and experiences and assumptions to the table, to this conversation. And you're doing the same. So what are the chances if we have to do something that we're just going to say something real quick and we're going to be aligned exactly on that? Slim and none, right? So it's just a good habit of saying, okay, let's just make sure we sync up on that. 30 seconds. All right, Jim, you're going to do this by then? Okay, and I'm going to do this by then. What was that? That was 5 seconds, not even 30 seconds, to prevent us from kind of getting off track later on. And that doesn't feel good for either party when you're coaching someone. If someone's kind of off track and they're not doing what you expected, it's like, and I always tell our clients, it'd be helpful if your team could read your mind, maybe a little scary, but helpful. But that's not how the world is. So we have to be really more specific than we think we need to be up front. That is not micromanaging. It's just being very specific about expectations. The way they get there can be their own way. They can have the autonomy to do that. But aligning on the expectations, it's ultimately the pay me now or pay me later.
Because I also find to me that I have to come back. It's like, okay, you said this.
Right.
Has your thought changed?
Yeah, right.
Has your desire changed? Has your outcome changed? Or is it the same?
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay for it to change, but we always have to be kind of checking in on stuff. Yeah. So really in terms of coaching, I don't care if it's coaching your kids, a little league, someone in the community, you're doing volunteer work, your own team, whoever it might be. I mean, just really spending that time up front on aligning on expectations. Boy, you make your life a lot easier moving forward on that.
Well, and ultimately what that gets to, and in the book you talk about the circle of consequences.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I, kind of have a cringe factor on is that consequences and that word has received such a negative context
Right.
In our society. But the fact is that consequences come in all forms and formats. We have
That's right.
positive consequences,
That's right.
negative consequences, and neutral consequences. So tell us
That's
a little
right.
bit about your circle.
Yeah. So I mentioned the 3 W's: what, who, and why. What, who, and when. So the circle of consequences is kind of like the 4th W. It's the why. So you give someone a new project or a new process, you need to walk them through the circle and say, okay, this is your performance. How does this performance going to affect our team? How does that ultimately then going to affect our organization? And what impact does it have on our customers? And then how does it affect our shareholders, whether it's private or public? And then it comes right back to you at the top of the circle. How does that affect your opportunities, your ability to grow, your exposure, your promotions, all that stuff in the business? So it's self-serving, but it's ultimately the question people always have. Yeah, you're asking me to do this, but like, what's in it for me? So as a leader, we need to be overt about that. That's fine. Okay, let's talk about it. Jim, here's this new project. Here's this new opportunity. Here's this new challenge. Let's make sure you understand the impact, the bigger picture, how it's going to impact your team, the organization, our shareholders, and then right back to you. Again, that's another 30-second conversation, but now I've got my why answered. And now I feel like, okay, I've got the bigger picture. I'm just not a robot going to do this because my boss said so. I have a chance to buy into it. I see the impact it's going to have. I'm much more motivated that way, and I buy into it better that way. So that few second conversation of closing the loop with people from their personal performance right back to their personal impact, how it's going to impact them, can be very powerful. And of course, it's not a one-way thing. It's a dialogue. They can talk about, okay, how's this going to affect our team? What does that mean? And that kind of thing. So again, a few minute upfront investment gets you much more discretionary effort on the back end of that conversation.
To me, as I was going through, I also started thinking about something that a lot of people mention today, and they talk about right fit, that I will actually sacrifice potential skills and experiences in order to find the right fit, because it's so important for organization. And I think we always have to go through that, fit test.
Sure.
Throughout my life, certain, things have changed. I've learned a little bit more about certain values. I've ejected some, added some, I've deepened some, and those things happen as we mature. And so I always have to find myself going through a fit check for things that I'm spending my efforts on.
That's right.
And I think sometimes coming to that mutual realization to where somebody says, well, I don't fit, or I no longer fit, or I have a different objective, is significantly more positive.
Ultimately.
Is negative.
That's right. Ultimately, yes, absolutely. And this book is focused on coaching, but in our other books on leadership, we absolutely talk about selections like your biggest lever point as a leader, right? Getting the right people in, right? Filtering the right people out if they don't fit. But that process is an ongoing one, as you just mentioned. It's not just like, oh, I hired them, it's great. Well, maybe it's 2 or 3 years into their career, and maybe it isn't fitting the role that they're in. Maybe it's not right for them. Things in their life have changed. Things in the organization have changed. So I think it's a appropriate and relevant conversation along the way, for sure.
Well, I think another thing is that you have in here something, and I asked you about the source of it, and you're like, oh, well, it's evolved and it's adapted. And I said, but to me, I think it's so important for everybody to understand, and it's called pyramid of learning. Right. So when we talk about the pyramid of learning, we have to really take that into consideration when we start talking about helping people to develop their potential. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Absolutely. And this falls under the involve coaching habit, to involve your team. And so the pyramid of learning kind of looks like this. It's really about how well we retain things. So if you think about from the top of the pyramid, if I just read something, Jim, you just send me, hey, Lee, here's this new procedure, read it, and we got to start implementing it tomorrow. The chances of me retaining and actually implementing that effectively is about 10%. So if we read something, our retention is fairly low, right? If we read and hear something, now we're at about 20%. If we read, hear, and say something, we're at about 30%. So it goes all the way down the pyramid, whereas we actually say and do something, in other words, we demonstrate the skill, that's about 90% retention, right? So the point is, as we coach, we get in this busy world. We talk about we're on this leadership treadmill. We're busy, moving one thing to the other. So we might hand off this policy. Hey, Jack, go do this. Hey, Sue, go do that. And we hand something, and we think we're coaching, we're giving them stuff. But what happens is we get ourselves caught in what's called re-coaching, because they get it, they don't do it. It's next week. Hey, I gave you that policy last week. Why aren't you implementing it? Well, they've got a million other things. It's not about their intelligence. It's like they just don't get that. So we have to, and one extra minute, instead of me saying, hey, Jim, go read this policy and start implementing it, I could say, Jim, read this policy, and after lunch, I'm going to come back to you and tell me what you think about it and how you might implement it. Now you've had a chance to read it, integrate it into your thinking, think about how you're going to implement it, and then express that. I've pushed from 10% at the top of the learning pyramid in just a few minutes. I meet with you after lunch. Now we're way down at the bottom of the learning pyramid, probably 70, 80%, right? So that small investment of time to involve the person in the coaching process enables them to feel better about it, right? They're going to actually be able to implement it effectively. And people they want to master something. They want to feel good about it. And certainly as a coach, selfishly, I want my people to master things, and I don't want to have to deal with this again. So spend 2 extra minutes and I could get it right the first time. So it's important to understand that learning pyramid and think about, and when I talked about read, say and do, all of that, I'm talking about that from the coachee's perspective, not from the coach's perspective. So when you think about your coaching, think about a scenario you may have had, and where was my person I was coaching on that learning period? Was I just giving them something to read? Was I telling them something, in which case they're just hearing it? So there's always great and very quick and efficient opportunities to push further down the learning pyramid so that we can boost the coaching effectiveness.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, going through and having all these life experiences and writing these books and going through these activities and all of that. I mean, you've learned a lot along the way to get to the point where you are now. And I'm sure there's times where you've had to get over the hump yourself because you've learned something from it. Can you share stories with us?
Yeah, just a coaching opportunity for me. Like, listen, I used to think I was a really good listener, right? And until I had someone who I really trusted and a friend. And I always say a friend is someone who's willing to tell you what you really don't want to hear. But they tell it to you to build you up, not to break you down, right? So this friend of mine said, you know what, Lee? I know you're generally a good listener, one-on-one and stuff, but like in that meeting, you couldn't shut up, right? Like you really didn't come up. I don't think you really heard what people had to say. And you know what that was part of? Not only I needed to work on my skill set, but it was part of my mindset, because I went in with a certain mindset, like I knew the solution and I wasn't really willing to hear it. I had this filter going, okay, here's what I think, and everything else just bounced off, right? So it was really a lesson to me more about just my mindset being open to things. And if our mindset's in the right place, remember the 4 levels of awareness, know your thoughts, your purpose, your values, and your emotions. I really work on that a lot. I feel like if we can align our mindset in the right place, we're much more effective at kind of the skills and our approaches, right? So it just kind of drew me back to, you know what, I've got to know that I don't have it all right. I've got to be open and really listen. Once I changed my mindset, the behavior easily followed. That was easy. So, and I find that a lot with our clients. We work with them on skills and stuff, but when you think about organizational change, there are 3 levels. There's mindset, skill set, and then tool set. So many times books and coaches and stuff focus on, here's a new skill, here's a new tool. And that's great, but you got to get the mindset right, because you're swimming upstream all day long if you have the wrong mindset, even with the right set of tools and skills.
I think we kind of have come full circle on the mindset thing. The mindset thing can help with, the resiliency piece.
Sure. There's
just so many different components. One of the things that I talk about is the ecosystem impact. And you kind of alluded it to as well, but it's like, hey, I start with me. And then it can affect my colleagues.
That's right.
It can affect, my peers. It can affect my direct reports. It can affect those people above me, my team.
That's right.
Department, my company, and the customer, and then ultimately getting down to the industry, and then maybe even affecting the world. And I think that's so critically important to know that we all really are part of something bigger than ourselves. It's just a matter of whether or not we have visibility to it.
That's right. And so awareness of personal impact is key. And that's why the circle of consequences is important, to let people understand that this is not in a vacuum, right? There's a ripple effect with everything that all of us do every day. I just don't think leaders and coaches are often enough explicit about what that looks like so people can really see it.
Most definitely. Okay. So when we start talking about, you've written tons of books. You and I talked about some of those other things that are out there that, aren't as, or that are more popular than some of the work that you're doing. But, all of that causes us to want to make a bigger dent in the universe, right? Keep
Sure.
circle of influence. Well, when I start thinking about some of your goals, what's one of them?
I would like to, personally, I'd like to push myself physically, and I'd like to run a half marathon in the next year, right? So I always even tell my kids this. It's great to push yourself physically once in a while. I'm not like some extreme athlete or anything, but you know why? Because it's not about the body. It's about the mindset and the preparation and the discipline and the kind of the grit to be able to get through that. It's always great to kind of test yourself once in a while to know what you're made of. So that's one thing. On the business side, it's really just about continuing to try to put good out into the world to help people elevate their game personally and professionally. And that's keeping things simple. I'm a pretty simple-minded guy. I know all the research and the complexity and the science behind it, but my goal is to get through the complexity to the other side of it, to simplicity, where people could digest it and apply it. And that's really been all of our books. Our firm, we're very much a how-to consulting firm. So we just continue to try to identify challenges leaders have and find simple ways that they could say, hey, I could get my head around that, whether it's engagement or execution or accountability or coaching. Every leader agrees, yeah, I need to do that. They agree to the what, but they get tangled up in the how-to because they're like, oh, what do I have to do? Like, it's all looks so complex. And, and so I don't think there are too many challenges in the world, particularly from a leadership perspective or sales or service perspective, where it's that complex. There are always 1 or 2, 3 little steps we could take to kind of move forward. That's our goal, to continue to kind of find simple solutions to address complex challenges so people can elevate themselves and their teams.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best.
Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better.
All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the
Hump Day Hoedown.
Okay, Lee, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions. And your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Lee Colan, are you ready to help? Are you ready to hoe down?
I am ready. Go for it.
All right. So what is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
I would say my mindset of feeling that I'm a better writer about leadership than I am a leader myself. And I feel like I've been able to lead over the past 20 years, and I need to kind of work on that mindset to say, I could do this. And so I think my mindset in a lot of areas of my life is still something you always have to work on. It's like cleaning your house. You don't clean it once and then it's clean forever. You always have to be working on your mindset. And that's an ongoing challenge for me.
So what is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Best leadership advice I ever got was that you don't have to know everything. You could be resourceful. An old professor of mine said, Lee, the key to success is not to be able to know everything. It's to be able to plug up your ignorance within 24 hours. So it was a lesson to me about being resourceful. With all the resources we have now, it's really more like 4 hours, right? But I don't burden myself with having to know everything, but I do challenge myself to be resourceful, to be able to get answers and solutions and relationships quickly.
And what is one of your secrets that you believe leads to your success?
I believe turning strategy or concepts into specific actionable things. Because strategy is great, but if people can't act on it, it just goes nowhere. So me, I'm very good about boiling things into 3. I always think in 3. Step 1, step 2, step 3. It helps me move forward, and I think it helps our clients move forward.
And what is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
I think one of the best tools we alluded to, it's the 3 W's. Everything I do, I have a project, I always have a 3W form. What has to happen? Who's responsible? By when? It's ultimately a project planning tool, but it's really an accountability tool. It helps me, it helps our clients.
And what would be one book that you'd recommend to our Legion? It could be from any genre. Of course, we're going to put a link to The Power of Positive Coaching on your show.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. A book that's near and dear to my soul is The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. years ago, and it's just got each chapter like on love, on marriage, on whatever, on success, various topics. He's a poet, right? Very deep writer, and it's very simple. It's profound and simple, and that's kind of the kind of writing that I like. Give me one paragraph, a couple sentences, and it hits me in the heart. That says a lot. The Prophet.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Lee Colan. Okay, Lee, this is my last Hump Day Hold On question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25. You can take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take it all. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
Okay. I would take my deep in faith that I have now back with me, to know that everything always works out okay. You know, when you're 25, you're making lots of decisions and it seems kind of crazy. And the fact is, if I know now about leaning on my faith, I happen to be Christian. I'm not espousing for anybody, but that is my faith. I believe in Jesus as my Savior. And so if I had that faith then, or that knowledge of it then, and been through some of the trials and ups and downs now, I think just would have been a little steadier, a little smoother, and maybe handle things a little bit differently. So my deep in faith that's the one thing I would take back with me.
Lee, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Sure. At thelgroup.com, it's the word then the letter L, then the word group, thelgroup.com. And if they want to subscribe to our just tips and tools, they could just text the word leadership to 444-999. So they just text the word leadership to 444-999.
Lee Colan, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump.
Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.